Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Horrific Chat. In this segment, we talk to artists and creatives to discuss their inspiration, motivations, and journey into horror. Tonight, we're joined by MJ Mars, an author who has been featured in numerous anthologies and publications, now releasing her debut novel, The Suffering. Evening, Michelle, and how are you this fine evening?
Hi, Colin. I'm fine. How are you?
Grand, grand. Starting to heat up a bit here. I'm like, had to relent and put the fan on, and just given the fact that I'm old and fat and subject to the elements.
No, it's boiling here as well.
Oh, man. Of all the weekends, I'm surprised I didn't get one of them warnings to go, oh, it's sunny, you're all going to die.
Yeah, no
Because we're
horse
afraid
pack
of
ban
everything
yet.
now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fun time. So how's life treating you? How are you getting on?
Really good. Yeah, it's been a bit of a crazy couple of months because the book only came out in February, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just been insane. So, yeah, it's gone in a way that I never would have dreamed. So it's been fantastic.
You're through Small House Publisher, aren't you? Was it Wolf Creek
Yeah,
Press?
it's Wicked House that I'm
Wicked House. I
with.
knew it was at something house or
Yeah.
creek or something. So I forgot to write it down. I have a memory like a sieve. If I don't write things down, I lose it.
It's all right, don't you worry.
That's why
But
you're
no,
here to keep me right.
yeah, they've been brilliant. So yeah, I'm really, really lucky to have been taken by them because they are absolutely fantastic. So recommended.
Yeah, thanks for reaching out. Good. This segment kind of starts and stops. You know, people get involved all at once, and then it kind of drifts off. Then people get involved again. That's part of the fun. So we're not like always chasing people and forcing people to go on. It's kind of
Mhm.
organic, which is cool. We're not relying on just pushing for guests every week. So when we do these things, it's good to have a chat, and both parties are up for it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I take it from February you've been involved in a lot of self promotion, which generally is every author's worst nightmare.
Yes, mine too.
Yeah.
It's frightening and scary, and you also just feel like you're annoying people as well because you know when you constantly on your Facebook just like oh there's this, there's that. Please leave a review. Please do this. Please do that, and you just feel like you're bugging everybody on your friends list. And so yeah, but you have to do it. It's a part of the job, especially nowadays because there just aren't the teams of people to do the promotion like there used to be. But I mean, it's so accessible now that you can do it yourself, and social media and podcasts and things like that have just made doing it so much easier. So yeah, it's brilliant.
I try to tell a lot of authors because so many people are reticent. This wee circle thing here is so frightening. It's like, oh
Mhm.
no, I can't go on camera. It's like you're not being judged. It's just a chat.
Yeah.
And if people get to know you and not just buy my book, you know, just find out what you're about. That's
Mhm.
how you get fans and people get more intrigued about your work. And I've been trying to pass that message along as in don't get so bogged down with the promotion, if that makes sense.
Mm.
But
Yes.
just put yourself out there and talk to people.
Definitely, yeah. Just joining group chats and other people who love horror books and things like that. It makes such a difference because you can just start a conversation about the books that you like. It doesn't have to always be talking about your book all the time. If you just get in a Stephen King chat or a Dean Koontz chat or whoever
Mhm.
you like, and then you just end up interacting with people who are going to like your stuff as well. So it's really nice
That's it,
community.
because I'm guessing that you're. Sorry, excuse me. I did warn you before the start. I've got this weird cough at the moment, and it's
Oh.
dying on camera. Really, really professional setup here, as you can
It's
tell.
okay.
Um, but do you find that your influences, what you watch and read yourself in horror, has kind of shaped what you create?
Mhm.
Do you try to do something different from what you like, or be inspired by it and carry along the same vein? What's your kind of thought process with that?
Yeah, well, I always say that one of my earliest influences was, do you remember the League of Gentlemen comedy horror show? And so
Oh yes, this is a local bar or local shop for
exactly,
local.
yeah.
I'm would change that. That's been like a spell. Oh, is this a local bar for local people, or is this a a
Exactly.
local whatever? Oh man, that show was sick. I loved it.
Oh, it was brilliant. And it was just when I was like a teenager. So, you're like a sponge then, aren't you? You're just taking everything in. And I just thought I'd never seen that kind of the humanity of it, having the comedy and the horror mixed together. It just kind of gave it another level. So, I mean, The Suffering isn't a comedy book, but there are comedy elements in. And I just think it helps, to sort of empathize with the people a bit more if they're sort of, they're cracking jokes, or if they're seeing the funny side in a terrifying situation. I think there's something very human about that, and you kind of really relate to it. And so they have always been a big influence, because they've gone on to do Inside Number 9 as well, which has the same kind of thing, the twists and turns in it. You never really know what's next kind of thing. And so they've been a huge influence. Richard Layman as well. I don't know if you read Richard Layman very much.
No, not familiar.
Okay,
what's he all about then?
Well, he was quite big back in sort of like the 90s, and it was more splatterpunk, so it was a bit more kind of blood spatter and gore everywhere than Stephen King and books like that were a little bit more maybe psychological and went down a different path. But when I was first discovering horror, reading him was just so eye-opening and so much fun. I think that's the thing. I wanted to do something that kind of had that feeling of fun, and that, you get sucked into the book and you just enjoying the characters and the scenario. And, if there's a super gory scene or something insane happens, when you just read it and you like laugh out loud because you just kind of shocked. I think he definitely introduced me to that kind of feeling. I hope sort of comes across in The Suffering a few times as well. So yeah, big influence.
But that's kind of the point. You need the moments of levity, because then that's when the horror creeps in and becomes more impactful. Or if it's all just, I reviewed movies ad nauseum. That's another thing we do, is rip apart movies in this. But there's one in particular, I can't even remember his name now, but it was just doing dreaded music throughout every single scene. There's one I reviewed with Steve. God, that one with Helen Hunt in it. Oh, I See You.
Yes.
God, every single scene was dun dun dun. To the point you just get bored. You're like, and nothing was happening.
Yeah, and there's no downtime, so you lose it, don't you, completely?
Yeah, and you just become immune. And it's like, no, you need that. It's the same as sex and horror as well. You need that bit of because then when it kicks in, like the slasher movies, you're like, oh, because you just get titillated, and then you're like, just get the other emotion. And that's that's kind of good storytelling as well, which I don't think people appreciate. The level of storytelling has to go into horror to make it good.
Yeah. Yeah,
One thing I want to challenge in this podcast is that notion of horror as a throwaway genre. It's sub-basement trap. You know, way other, if you've ever went in a mixed writers group, like with different genres, ooh, horror, ooh, horror, ooh. And they tend to be the nastiest people you can imagine, like comedy writers and flipping robots writers. And meanwhile, you got us weirdos are just like laughing and joking while talking about gory things.
It's like we're the geeks and goths that were kind of shunned at school, and people are looking down on us. But we know what we're doing. We can play with the big boys.
Which makes me wonder why the outrage mob decided to try and come into our genre, and then it fell flat. They tried it with a couple of movies to bring their nonsense into our world. They're like, mate, who are you talking to?
Yeah,
we've been here long before you. We are the weirdos.
Exactly.
And if you can think of it, it's already been in the movie.
Yeah.
You can't bring anything here. We look the world over for the most obscure tribe on top of a hill to find a horror story about. So when them Muppets started coming into our world, it was like, what are you doing? Go away.
Yeah, we are the weirdos, mister. We know what we're doing. But I think it's the same kind of thing as like...
I think we've got one of your friends coming on here. Holly.
Oh. Hi, Holly. Thanks
there we go. It's chat's picking up already.
Yeah, but like I think it's the same with like graphic novels. They always get kind of like sneered at and looked down upon, and the craftsmanship that goes into making a good fast-paced graphic novel where the dialogue is just like 3 little panels on a page is just the skill that goes into it. And yeah, it does get that same kind of, people turn their nose up at it, but it takes a lot of skill to do it. So
it's always funny. I always find it amusing, those sort of people that like, oh, you're a horror writer, is that all you could do? And you're like, come here, catch a grip.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's just funny, but that's anyone comes out here, just they get it. So we're preaching to the converted, let's be honest.
Yeah.
So with the Suffering, that's a sort of paranormal story. Is that right?
Yeah. So it's set in a haunted house that was the scene of a séance back in the 1800s.
Sort of Victorian time seance that went horribly wrong. Is that right?
Exactly, yeah. So this seance was like a spell of divination. So they thought that if they got 5 different ghosts that had different kind of characteristics, then that would kind of feed into this notion of unlocking the human condition kind of thing. And then they would be able to kind of tap into seeing their own futures and get sort of supernatural kind of powers. So they
That always
hired...
works out well.
Well, of course, yeah, it's very ill-advised. So they hire this young sidekick, Lucius, who's actually a distant ancestor of one of the characters when the book begins, and it's the people who are living in the student house now. And so the house has been passed down, and it's now like where these 5 students live. And again, like fools, they decide to do the seance themselves and recreate it in 2016.
Because that's always a good idea as well.
Well, exactly. Halloween fun times. And of course, it brings the ghosts out again. They've just kind of been lurking and waiting for the opportunity to come out. And so they latch on, because there's 5 ghosts and 5 students. So they each kind of latch on to the one where the student's sort of personality or the things that they like to do is going to be most impacted by this ghost and its own characteristics. So they just kind of gradually pick these students to pieces and make them extremely miserable during the course of the book. And then they just have to find a way of like unlocking the secrets of the original seance and finding out how to banish the ghosts if they can.
Did you do any paranormal research for this? Or are you going strictly from a storytelling horror perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been really interested in paranormal, and so there's quite a few gadgets that people, if you're interested in, paranormal research, there's a few of the gadgets that you'll recognize, sort of like the Mel meters and things like that crop up in there, because I love all those shows like, Ghost Adventures and stuff like that, where they go and explore historic places, tell a bit of the history, do a bit of showmanship and
run around in green screen going,
yeah, pretty much. And then bring out all these gadgets.
Tragic.
I enjoy it. I just think it's so fun. And so, that's I've just always...
If horror had a version of American wrestling, paranormal shows would be that.
Sure, yeah.
Honestly.
But it's entertaining.
Or Hollywood Housewives. That's horror's version of Hollywood Housewives or American wrestling. Just
yeah.
The only thing I've found though that people are actually really into the paranormal. They have zero sense of humor.
Oh, really?
They take it so you dare crack a joke in one of their forums, and you are a heretic. You are the worst of the worst.
Yeah, it's like people forget that it is actually an entertainment show at the end of the day, and so you do see that where they are taking things very, very seriously, but you have to remember the reason why they are making this show is for entertainment. So yeah, it's
that ability to sort of step out and realize where you are. It's like any sort of fandom or expression. Some people just get too much into the weeds. They just get your head and they can't switch off.
Yeah, and can't see it from other perspectives, and just get so angry about it, like you say. But yeah, it's an interesting kind of world.
It's fun to poke the bear sometimes, though. Just yes, I'm one of those people.
Oh, so you don't believe in the Loch Ness monster, then? I take it.
No.
No. But I mean, I've always loved...
There might have been something down there that couldn't have been explained, but with the technology we have, we would have found it by now.
Yeah,
and there's enough people and enough millionaires have funded pet projects to try.
Definitely. But I've always found that kind of thing so inspiring, and just I often say, and I'll probably say it in every interview, that it gave me that same feeling when I was a kid that Santa did. It was like that same kind of excitement of just like, oh my goodness, you're kind of looking out your curtains, just like, am I going to see this crazy thing on the rooftops? And it's just always giving me that bit of a rush. So I always enjoy it. I enjoy cryptids and monsters and things like that. I'll never get bored of it, I don't think.
One thing from obviously reviewing a lot of paranormal movies and actually stories that have been featured in the show, the official policy of this channel is that ghosts are stupid. Are you following the same trope, or are you making your ghosts devious and intelligent?
Well,
Because most haunted movies, the ghost is like, can't articulate, but they can move things around, they can crash things and smash things and stuff, but they can't. They write one word and it means nothing, and it takes like the entire movie or the story to figure out what they actually mean.
yeah.
Where if they were less of a gibbering idiot and just, I was murdered here, he did it, she did it,
Yeah.
done, would save ourselves a lot of hassle.
Well, my ghosts are pretty crafty, so they might be able to pull a trick or two on you. And yeah, the I don't know. I think because there is, like you say, when they are dumbed down, it is less spooky, isn't it? And you just think, oh, I'd get around that so quickly. So yeah, they are a little bit sharper than your average ghost, I guess.
That's why my favorite horror monster are demons.
Yes.
Demons
Yeah.
are amazing. They just want to mess you up for the sake of it, like the Evil Dead, Deadites.
Yeah.
But the
Sure.
epitome of demons are just mess. They could kill you 100 times over, but they're not. They're playing with you
Yeah. Exactly. They're just
for their
doing
own.
it because they're evil, and that's it. There's
Yeah,
no
and that's it.
other
They get a
agenda.
thrill out of it.
Yeah.
Where when I encounter paranormal stuff with ghosts, I'm like, oh come on. It's like, just spit it out. Or what are you trying to do? Or if this person's trying to help you, why are you throwing them down the stairs?
Yeah.
That always got me. What do we do? The Changeling not so long ago, and the ghost where the guy's actively trying to help the ghost and understands what's going on is throwing him, setting fire to the house and throwing him downstairs. Like,
Yeah.
really, that's gratitude. What do you want him to do?
Yeah, counterproductive.
Yeah, it's always been a thing with me that I just can't. You know why you have to suspend disbelief? I just can't do it.
Yeah.
When it comes to that, you know, it's always been a problem.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's yeah. I mean, I think that there's got to be different kinds of ghosts in the media and in the different films you watch, depending on what you're in the mood for. Like we've all had a day where we want to watch Zombievers instead of something a bit heavier, and so I guess it's horses for courses, isn't it? With the ghosts.
That's another thing people don't appreciate, and I've talked about ad nauseum this. The horror genre is so wide ranging in itself.
Yeah.
You can stay within the horror genre and watch 20 different types of movie, but still be within horror.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I love about it as well. When people say, why do you write horror instead of, crime or romance or whatever? And it is just you can do literally anything. Like there is no kind of restrictions at all with horror, because it is, you can just come up with anything, it's kind of a really free way of writing, because there are no limits. So yeah, it's a good genre to be in.
Yeah. Just on that was actually one of the questions. When you encounter someone from outside of horror and they ask that question, why do you do it, or why on earth would you like that genre? How do you bring them around? How do you sort of convince them that it's not just slashers, it's more in depth, and you can get more out of it? Like, there are love stories told in the horror aspect. There's like Dracula is one of the oldest love stories, let's be honest.
Yeah, absolutely.
You think about, it's dark and evil and twisted, but that's what you get with the cursed creature. The Wolfman was saved by love. That was the thing that prevented him from turning.
Yeah.
So you have that aspect of it. Drama, futuristic. You can have it in space. You can have it in medieval times. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But how do you sort of speak to somebody that says, yeah, horror? Why? Well, why do you do that?
Well, I think when they're asking it from a writing perspective, as I say, it is just that freedom, and I really enjoy it. And it's kind of being able to write disgusting like scenes, I get a rush out of it. But from what might it benefit for you as a reader who's never been into it before, I'd say, you learn a lot more about people, I think, through horror, rather than like if it's just a romance, you might not get into any kind of questions about the, not to be dramatic, but like the human condition and emotional side of it, whereas I think horror really does ask those questions, and just takes it to a bit of a different level, where you are left kind of thinking about either, like you say, your beliefs about things like, oh, is this ridiculous, or is it effective, or what would I do in this situation? I probably wouldn't do that. Like, don't run upstairs. Get out the door. But
don't read from the book bound in human flesh and written in blood.
Exactly, and they'll still do it. So yeah, I think it's just that you can explore kind of a lot more, I think, with many different types of horror, than you can with a lot of other genres. And you can really put yourself in the position of, oh, what would I actually do in this situation? Which, yeah, I think, yeah, I get a lot out of it in that way. So that's how I
Do you
try and
find
bring them
yourself
around.
then having to think more about the characters you create
Yeah.
because they're
Mhm.
going to be tested? You know, that's the whole point of the horror genre. Like, I've talked about this before: the brighter, the sunnier the day, the happier, the bigger the smells, the happier people are. You
Mhm.
know it's coming. Like any horror fan goes, this is good, bad, and the happier, you know, the longer the idyllic, tranquil scene happens, you know it's going to be gruesome.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
thinking about the characters, you know that they're going to face ultimate challenges and not
Mhm.
just getting killed, like paranormal, like your soul's at risk, so to speak. You know, you can be ripped to hell or another dimension. So death mightn't be the end of it. So
Yeah, exactly. Like I've been having a conversation today in there's a group online called Books and Horror,
Mhm.
and they're running discussions on a lot of books, and The Suffering's one of them. And so people were asking similar questions and that, and putting their opinions forward about the characters. And there was a couple that stood out today in that kind of thing. There's one called Cassie, and she's most readers really enjoyed her and engaged with her, but she's one of those people who doesn't always get on with everybody. So when I was writing her, I was kind of aware that I wanted people to like her and be on her side, but at the same time understand why a lot of people didn't. So she's kind of
Mhm.
got that kind of multi-layered personality, but it
Is that
helps.
allowed today?
Yeah. I mean, she isn't
You
like
know, everyone has to be like superhero or like
super nice.
black and white. You're not allowed complex characters anymore because
I think
people get annoyed.
I think that's another thing where indie horror is just smashing it, because you can do that, and you can bring in more realistically flawed people, and it isn't going to get a huge backlash of, oh well, I don't want to read about this person. I think it is such a freeing kind of place to be in the indie horror world. It's amazing because you don't have those restrictions, and you don't have that need for things to be tied up with a neat little bow. You can
Mhm.
just take it anywhere and take their characters wherever you want to, and the audience is usually pretty receptive to it. So that's a big plus for the indie horror. But with Cassie, yeah, with her being such, quite bullheaded and, rubbing people up the wrong way, the
I know nothing
fiery
about
side
that.
of her comes out.
Couldn't
um,
imagine being like that at all.
but yeah, when she's facing the ghost at the end, she's the one who's just like, come on, lads, let's do this. We've got to get this done.
Mhm.
And there was another character that people were talking about today who's called Jonah, who's a cousin of one of the guys who lives in the student house. But he's like always there, feeding, taking the stuff, trying to sleep with all the girls, just that typical person who is always at a student house, but
Mhm.
causing trouble, rubbing people up the wrong way. And a lot of people were just like, oh yeah, I knew he was going to be like the cannon fodder because of the way he is, and he's like cheeky chappy kind of thing, but you kind of know that he's not long for the world in a horror situation.
Mhm. Thing is, though, I find that, especially in slashers, I find that quite disappointing
Oh
because
yeah.
I like getting invested in the character, and then it's more
Mhm.
of a shock when they get offed.
Oh
You're like,
yeah, well,
ah,
you might like the ending of The Suffering in that case,
mm-hmm.
because it is I think a lot of people have said they were a bit shocked by the ending. So yeah.
Obviously, link in description, folks. Do the thing. Yes, yous out there, you know why you're here. Let's get some support going.
Oh, thank you.
That's what we're here for. But yeah, that always frustrates me. You know, it's fun sometimes to have the cardboard cutout characters that like
Mhm.
plink, 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 they all get dropped.
Yeah.
But it's also, I think, when you're invested in the character and you're like, oh no. Some slashers do it the other way though. They'll keep the annoying character like a second before last,
Yeah.
just to wind you up.
Yeah.
The Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake
Oh yeah.
did it perfectly. Let's find the most annoying character and just in your face right to the last moment. You're like, oh come on, you're not going. No, 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 you're not going to do that. No, no. Yeah, finally, yay!
Yeah.
Talking of which, this was talking of annoying characters. You were kind of inspired by 13 Ghosts.
Uh-huh.
On this, oh god, that actor, what's his name? He was in Scream and played Shaggy.
Oh, Matthew Lillard.
Yeah, God, I had to
Not your
review that.
favorite.
He bugs the life of me. That's the annoying, typical backward baseball cap wearing American
Yeah.
that just aggravate. That is him.
Yeah. There was a lot of that in the 90s and early 2000s, though, wasn't
He
it? It was like
bugs the
quintessential.
life out of me. I'm just
Yeah.
like, stop! Would you die already? Stop! Just die! And then
Oh,
in that movie, he hadn't even the decency to just die. He came back. I was like, oh,
yeah.
come on, just.
Oh, but
I'm
I
sure he's
heard
a
that
lovely
guy
person
was.
in real life, but
Yeah, he seems like a good guy.
whenever he's, I despise the Scream franchise.
Oh yeah, not
Utterly
a fan.
despise it. The first one was okay as one of its own. I don't even remember. I've told this story before, but I watched Scream 2 in the cinema, and I don't even remember how it ended. I noped out. I switched off
Yeah,
like
I
halfway
always
through it.
mix it up with the scary movies that do it better.
They were better.
Yeah, exactly.
They were better. Oh my god.
Totally agreed.
It's bad when a parody gets the essence of what you're trying to say more.
Yeah. But they are so good. All like the first three of the scary movies. Are just
I didn't get
so
like I said,
funny.
got halfway through the second one in the cinema and I actually zoned out.
Yeah.
I'm just like, and I come out of the cinema going, what did I watch? I don't care. And that's been
Yeah.
it. And my mate keeps trying to get me back in it. It's like, it's not happening.
No,
Sorry,
I'm a
it's
bit
not
like
happening.
that. Slashers don't tend to get me all that excited. There's got to be something a little bit.
Actor can be
Extra.
fun. Like, I'm not one to write off like an entire genre completely. Like, slashers can be
Sure.
fun.
Yeah, I
But
mean, like,
it's not the bread and butter of horror.
no.
It's,
Yeah,
and
I
that's
do prefer.
people's perception as well, don't you think?
Mhm.
People see horror as the slasher because that's what Hollywood pushes out most. That's the summer blockbuster type thing.
Yeah, I think that's why there is that, feeling of sometimes it can be a bit boring and a bit like paint by numbers, because that was it. Sort of in the last, certainly about 20 years ago, there were so many that were coming out that were just so predictable, and you kind of knew where it was going because of the way that they were all following this kind of pattern, and because people were flocking to the cinema to see them, and so they just kept on doing it. But
Yep, rinse and
I
repeat.
think, yeah,
It's like with superhero
exactly.
movies now, like turn the machine on, keep them going out. It's like,
I know. I don't think we'll ever get the end game feeling ever again, because they just seem
I'd
to. It's
already
like there
switched
was a
off
peak.
before Endgame.
Did you? Were you
Yeah, I
not
just
feeling it anymore?
after Infinity War, I was just gradually waning. Just done.
Oh, but
But
yeah, they are sort of. I don't think they'll ever hit that peak again, will they? But we shall see. You never know. I hear that the Flash movie's amazing, but
yeah, I want to watch a pedophile like get paid
I
loads of
know
money.
this is the only
I'm
thing,
good
isn't
with
it?
that.
It's like I hear that the film is absolutely amazing, and it's such a shame that they kept him in as the actor. It doesn't
They
really
had
make any
enough
sense.
opportunity, but
Yeah, exactly. It is frustrating. So
when you think
yeah,
of what they fired people for, like nothing,
I know.
and
Yeah,
they kept that muppet in,
I know.
it's
Yeah,
like
it's
I'm done.
infuriating.
But the only way you can explain to these companies is just there's no point getting outraged or ranting about it in social media. You just don't go to their movies.
Yeah, and this is
Buy
the
indie horror
problem.
instead.
Yeah,
Just saying. For the same price you go to the cinema, you could buy 2 indie horror books,
yeah,
or you could watch a couple of indie horror movies from creators who would be
exactly.
more than grateful for your support.
Hmm. Yeah,
And you could buy your
definitely.
own popcorn for like third the price.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Just saying. The options are.
absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
But on that, yes, the indie scene's exploded.
Mhm.
You can market yourself, but there's tens of thousands of people doing it. Like it's
Mhm.
absolutely flooded. You
Yeah.
become a tiny voice and just a great voice of, even in the podcast and whatever. I mean, the number of opportunities out there and options people can watch.
Hmm.
How do you navigate through that to sort of make your voice unique and, find your little mark?
Well, I was really like terrified of kind of putting myself out there at first, and Patrick, who runs Wicked House, had some really great tips and was always really encouraging to us as the writers. Just get in these groups, speak to these people, just put yourself out there to people who are like-minded in terms of loving certain aspects of horror and things like that. And so his advice was fantastic. You know, and it is just kind of like just connecting with people who are going to read the book, because, you know, like we were talking about before, everyone has the different things that they like. It's not going to be for everybody, but if you manage to connect with the right audience, then, you know, it takes off on its own sort of trajectory. Like they carry it along, and it's really nice to see. Like sometimes things will be really effective that you don't expect. Like I just happened to mention that the title came from a song by Coheed and Cambria, and a girl in that group said, "Oh, you should post it in this group who are like Coheed and Cambria fans." So I was like, "Oh, okay, well." You know, I don't know if it'll work very well, but I did, and it just got so much engagement. Like people were just like, "Oh, brilliant!" You know, because it connected with them. Like they love the band. The book's named after a song by the band, and so they were really, really excited for it. And so you just never quite know when you are going to connect with people in a way, you know, you just didn't expect. So
Yeah, one thing we try to explain to people, because this whole podcast is based on the principle of we need more creators out there. We need people to step up. We need there's a void, like the Hollywood sludge. We're sick of it. We're sick of like the main publishing houses. I always say the epitome of blandness is either the bookshelf at a supermarket or an airport.
Yeah.
If you want beige blandness, there's the two places you'll find it.
Yeah.
You'll not find horror section in any of those two.
Nope.
It just won't happen. But people love scary stories. People love to think about the human condition. People love to think about what's out there. You know, it's always been part of the human psyche. We love it.
Oh yeah, it's timeless. I mean,
And
fairy tales, they're all horror, aren't they? So
absolutely, everyone.
yeah.
But there's the opportunity to fill that void, and audience as well. It's just a matter of connecting with them and reaching that way out. But something you said there about your content mightn't be for everybody. Is that a hurdle you have to get over as any sort of creator? Do you have to recognize that fact first?
Yeah, I mean,
is that something you have to, get over or understand?
For me, I was just astonished that anyone liked it at all. So I was kind of like, not that if people didn't like it, I was just like, oh, okay, thanks for giving it a try. I think that's the way you've got to be, because I mean, I don't like everything, and sometimes books are fantastic, and do super well, and it doesn't really grab me for whatever reason. And so I think you've just got to be realistic about it and just think, you don't like every song that comes on the radio, you don't like every film that comes on the TV that everyone seems to love, and everyone just has their own little things that they like and styles that they like, and because that's the beauty of creativity, isn't it? That you can take it in so many different ways and
or else there'd be one book, one movie, and one song, and that would be all
boring.
Creativity if everybody liked the same thing. And that's what the corporations would love, wouldn't it? Because they're the most. It's funny that the people in charge of creativity, like at that level, are the most brain dead, boring, like soulless creatures you can imagine. Yeah, they would love it to be like that. They love everything just to be painted with beige and blandness and nothing. And maybe that's part of why they perpetuate the hate towards horror. Like, have you noticed with social media, it's really hard. Like, you're getting shadow banned or outright getting warnings and strikes for nothing. And there's worse stuff out there, an actual real life hatred being put out there, yet spooky stories like, oh, you're going against our community standards. What are these community standards that they're randomly with? But do you think because it's a challenge to them? Like horror in itself is a challenge to people like that?
Yeah, definitely. And I was at a talk yesterday about a hangman, and I am on the same tangent as you. Don't worry, I'm not like drifting off. But
we love tangents in this show. Ask anybody it's on. We love it. That's what it's all about.
But, so he was saying that when they brought in the long drop rather than the short drop, that they knew that the long drop was so much better for ages, but because of the spectacle and because like the counselors and everything knew that the people watching this spectacle of people struggling and taking 20 minutes, half an hour, even more to die, they felt like it was a deterrent. So even though they knew that there were better ways to do things, because it drew the crowd and because, they had this agenda, they didn't change it. And it was only the second when the law changed and hangings were taken behind closed doors, they immediately brought in the long drop for everybody because, that agenda had gone. And so I think it's when people fight back and say, oh, we're not happy with seeing this same thing over and over again, or, it's always that big corporation who has a certain thing in mind. And until it's challenged and until it's taken away, unfortunately, they're the ones running the show, aren't they? So,
it's so easy to change course because once the bottom line gets hit, once the crowds don't turn up, that's when they change their mind. You can shout and scream all you want. That's not affirmative action, as in, okay, you don't like us, then find somebody you do like. Especially in entertainment. That's why I don't understand. Like, have you encountered that people are terrified to read a book?
In
case they don't like it. People are terrified to watch a movie in case they don't like it. And you're like, is this going to end your life?
Yeah.
Are you going to, are you wasting 20 years? That's the reader, you're spending 20 years on a book.
Yeah. And they're afraid of like saying that they don't like it, when I don't think there's a problem with that. And you are allowed to watch something or consume something and then be like, oh no, it's not for me. But I agree, people are there is a little bit of a, oh, should I say this, should I do this? And
now what I don't like is if somebody just goes, that's crap,
with no,
I don't like that, or that's brilliant. Both are just as bad.
Exactly.
Say why you like something and say why you don't like something. Actually articulate. Now, it doesn't have to be War and Peace, paragraph upon paragraph, but why didn't you like the thing?
Yeah. One of the scariest things when I first started doing like the self-promotion and when the book had first come out was the reviews. And of course you've got, Goodreads that, so many people just are there to put their reviews on and they're really good at explaining what it is. But I quickly learned from being in, other author groups and reader groups that the reviews are there for the reader, not for the author. So, when they are like that and they are all in depth about what they liked and what they didn't like, then the reader can decide whether they want to pick it up and try it. It's nothing to do with the author. And I think a lot of people kind of forget that, really. And like there's been all sorts of drama in the writing world and about reviews and things recently. I don't know if you saw that.
I genuinely try to stay out of it.
Yeah.
Like I'm in I've actually started whittling down. At one point I was in over 100 groups because we had a weekly segment where we featured, it's kind of died off a bit, but I started getting submissions again. We have a segment called HORRORific Tales where we feature a segment from like either the first chapter or
like I'm going to be from a book. Applying for that because you sent me the link.
I would release through all those groups and you get some absolute lunatics.
Yeah.
How dare you promote independent authors? They're all crap. They're all blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, why are you getting so angry? I'd have people messaging me, like direct message me, you're an arsehole, you're this.
Oh my God.
Really? Like, you don't have to watch it. You don't have to read it.
Yeah.
I'm just putting it up there. I'm not saying this is better than anything else. I'm saying, go ahead.
Here's something for you. Take it or leave it.
Taster. If you're not too sure about the book, here's a taster.
Yeah.
Crack on. And if you enjoy it, please support the artist. But some of the absolute maniacs I've encountered, so I've just drawn back from all these groups because I just don't need that in my life.
No, exactly. It's but that's it. When people are hiding behind a screen, they tend to be a bit bolder, don't they? Yeah.
Like if they met me in real life, they wouldn't be so chirpy. I just put it there,
This is
I'm a bullshit Belfast man, I just take anyone on. That's just my nature,
Yeah. They wouldn't say it to your face.
No, of course not. And that's what makes it more laughable. Like, these people that get brave, like, they won't even do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Those sort of people, they'll hide behind an avatar, even if they come on this and do it in speech, or they won't even have the guts, they'll do it in the comments. So I can't take them seriously, but at the same time, though, I want to focus on what I'm doing, my creativity. I want to interact with people who are worthwhile, as in mutual support. And get a bit of inspiration. That's, to me, that's a better use of my time. So focus on them sort of idiots.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you've encountered it as well. You cannot put yourself out there without
Yeah.
encountering someone like that. Have you dealt with that? Anyone like that? You know, just so angry and like attack you just for existing?
Well, had a way, not so much yet with the book. I mean, I think you know,
But people need to. This is your debut novel, but you have
Mhm.
written for quite a long time. I was going to get on that, but this isn't your first rodeo. It's not as if you just come out first time. You have been writing for quite a long time, so you've obviously been in the sphere.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, people that haven't been personal with me, you know, yeah. I mean, obviously, some people have liked what I've done, some people haven't, but I've never actually had that experience yet of people sort of attacking me in my DMs and things like that. And I'm so
It's fun.
pleased about it. Oh, but but like I have had it on just sort of personal groups. Like the other day, I commented about how I could hear a guy running like a kids cricket group in the field next to me when I was sat out in my garden. And so I put on like the local group, just like, oh, it's so nice to hear this guy. He's like taking care of the kids and stuff. And a guy in the comments there just started attacking, like, oh, back in my day, we just look after ourselves kind of thing. And he was just so angry about the fact that people were celebrating this man like being nice to kids in a field. I was just like, this is just weird. Like, why are you
But
so
that's
het
part
up
of the
about
reason
it?
why we're in the state we're in, because
Yeah.
youth groups are gone. There's nobody willing
Mhm.
to. There's no community anymore,
Yeah.
and that's what made, like, if I didn't have the youth groups I was involved in growing up, I wouldn't be here now. I wouldn't have had the confidence.
Yeah.
You know, it took. I was in the Scouts, I was in the Cadets, the Duke of Edinburgh's Award. If I hadn't have done that, there's no way I'd have the confidence to sit here and do this.
No.
That's what broke me out of my shell.
Yeah.
Somebody actually taking the time and effort to
Mhm.
invest in me. No, not just me individually, but you know, a group. I was part of it.
Yeah.
Somebody taking their time on a voluntary basis to invest in me, and that's
Mhm.
something you can never repay. And I think it's something like you don't hear about it anymore.
No, especially with you know, it's just kids are on social media glued to their phones all the time and stuff. So it's kind of like you say, it's kind of rare to see like clubs like that just
Mm-hmm.
getting such a big draw of kids as well, getting them out of the house and you know, getting them exercising and stuff. So it was just a nice thing. There was nothing to be negative about, but people still found, well, this one person found a way to be negative about it. And so there's always going to be one, isn't there?
Mm-hmm.
At least.
But the reason I bring it up, it is something you're going to encounter, and it's
Yeah.
just me. And people are actually afraid of stepping up or creating anything or putting themselves out because they're worried about this backlash or what they'll get. And what I'm trying to
Yeah.
say is, it's going to happen,
Yeah,
but
definitely. Yeah.
you can deal with it and you can still be here and crack on.
Yes.
And that's
Yeah.
why I like to hear about everyone's experience. It's not so much for me, but it's to tell somebody who's maybe hesitant about stepping forward or because of that negativity. It's like, you're going to get it anyway. That's
Yeah.
just the nature. By being an achiever in life, but being someone who wants to do something, you're going to get that hatred. And it's nothing
Yeah.
to do with you. It's their own shortcomings is why they get on like that. Because
Yeah.
it defies all logic.
Mhm.
But the thing is just, okay, yeah, okay, mate, you crack on there and just get on with it.
Yeah.
And have
Just
a laugh about it. That's, you know.
exactly. Yeah, you got to laugh. It's like we were saying about the horror when you inject a bit of comedy into it. Just it's the
That's
best
it.
way to do it.
Talking about there's oh, by the way, folks, feel free to ask questions because then it makes my job easier. I don't have to think as much.
Oh.
What are some of your favorite horror movies or books?
Oh,
You were mentioning obviously King and Kuntz, the stable, but
sure. As I said before as well, Richard Lehman, just massive influence on me. Movies, I'm a bit of a found footage geek, so like I love like Hell
get
House
out. Go,
LLC is probably
go.
my favorite.
Oh,
Sorry, I knew that was gonna get you.
all right. Oh, you've seen some of these before. Have you seen people dogpiling on me to make me watch movies?
Oh, really?
Yeah, watch this, Colin. Oh, it'll change your mind, and then I have to do a review. It's like, screw you guys, you're just torturing me now. And then I watch this absolutely shitty, terrible movie, and like, why? And everyone's in the
Oh,
chat, but
they're not for
laughing at.
everybody, that's for sure.
Yeah, and then you know what? And they do it deliberately just to wind me up.
Yeah, so
Anyway,
sorry about
carry on. Then.
that.
I'm sure it's a wonderful experience for you. Yeah,
um, but yeah, I'm a huge fan of you know, Hellraiser, Cenobites. Obviously, the whole backstories have always been a big influence on me. With you know, the style that I like all the ghosts having their own
we'll look
different
at that
kind of
horror
time
in this show.
periods. Hey.
We're doing Raw Head Rex tomorrow. Sorry to
Ooh,
everyone for that, but we've got them on the list.
excellent.
Yeah.
Oh, so yeah, but so I think Hell House LLC is my favorite, and then
hmm
sorry, and then Hellraiser definitely a close second.
Yeah. I was always a fan of James Herbert. He doesn't really get much of a mention.
No, that's
I think he's a
true.
very underrated. Yet he's one of the most graphic writers.
Yes, yeah,
Like
absolutely beautiful.
Sepultura, the scene he did with her hair dryer was just like, oh, I didn't know you could do that. Uh,
Oh, yeah, it's sort of kind of fallen into the old-fashioned kind of how people see it, don't they, with him? So it's a shame, really, because, like you say, it's absolutely brilliant.
yeah. Coons is another funny one actually. He's not strictly horror.
Yeah,
He kind of messes about with things. I'd say he's more dark fantasy.
yeah, yeah. There's a lot of like sci-fi in there, isn't there? And just
Yeah.
yeah, it's not sort of strict horror, but
But when he goes there
oh,
hard. He doesn't mess about.
definitely, yeah, he's good.
So with your writing, because as I was going to say, although this is your debut novel, and one thing I want to talk about as well, we'll broach on up is how you sort of got writing, because there's different avenues, and people think there has to be the novel first before they do anything.
Mm.
But you've submitted to multiple anthologies, as I said, and you've been featured in magazines and various publications. Was that beneficial for you in terms of getting that sort of, okay, I've actually been able to do it and put something out there without stressing for 10 years over that one idea?
Yeah,
Or was it just opportunity?
definitely.
How did that sort of come about from when you just started to put pen to paper, so to speak, and
Well, it was
finding
sort
an
of
outlet?
it was that feeling of kind of like wanting to build a CV, really. When you go for any kind of job, it's handy if you can say, well, this is my experience and here's this, and this. So I was always kind of aware that submitting to anthologies and actually getting short stories out there would be really good. Not just for the experience for me, and to improve my writing with the feedback if you're lucky enough to get it, and working with editors when they do take them on. I mean, you just learn so much. It's invaluable. It's absolutely brilliant. And so yeah, it was just about kind of, while I'm waiting and hoping for this massive ultimate goal, which is the big novel at the end of it. But if in the meantime I can just keep on chipping away and try and get in these publications, and just like you say, get yourself out there a bit, and network. I mean, networking with people through doing that kind of thing is really, really useful as well. Like getting in the negative space anthologies, they've been brilliant. Eric, who runs those, has just been so helpful, and
Mhm.
the people at the Dread Machine, they've been fantastic. And so you just kind of, you meet different people through kind of putting yourself out there and trying to get into these things along the way, until yeah, hopefully you get that end goal as well. But it's all been fantastic. Like, every time you get into something like that, you just think, oh my
Mhm.
goodness, that's amazing. I can't believe they picked it out of so many submissions and stuff that they must get. So it's a nice confidence boost as well when you get into things like that.
Oh, cool. It's an important thing though, because obviously rejection's part of all this.
Oh yeah.
Not everything's going to make it. How do you pick yourself up and push on?
Well, I've only ever wanted to be a writer, and so you know I never had any other kind of wants. When my friends were kind of like being, training to be nurses and, hairdressers, whatever, things that they'd wanted to do since they were a kid. I just never had anything like that except for being a writer. So time was marching on and marching on. And I did have that, oh my God, is this ever going to happen? It's like you say, rejection after rejection. It's not even getting a call back for people to read the whole thing. You send off your chapters in a synopsis, and nobody seemed interested at all. So I really was very despondent about the suffering. Even up to the month before I submitted it to Wicked House, I was just thinking, this is dead. This is dead in the water. Nobody wants it. It's never going to get published. I'm going to have to go back to the drawing board. But there is that little voice in your head that's just like, if you don't keep on doing it, you're definitely never going to never going to get there. And it's, like I say, the only thing I've ever wanted. And as soon as it got picked up, it was like a ton of bricks had just been lifted off me, because it was like this one goal that I'd always just felt kind of things were incomplete, even though, you know, no matter how happy my home life is, no matter how great other things are, it was always this big thing that was missing that just mattered so much. And so when it's there, it's just like, oh wow, that's it then.
But that's the thing
Finally.
about being a creative, don't you think? It doesn't matter what about your life. It's that urge you want to. Like, I still haven't decided what I want to do when I grow up. You know,
Yeah.
I'm figuring that out. But I know I personally have this urge to put something out there, and it's not even for ego or fame. Like, there's 100 ways. If you want fame, you can. There's 100 ways to do it. So much easier than sitting down writing a novel for over a year a bit, and that's not even counting the editing stuff.
Yeah.
But is it that desire? Like, it's not going to go away now. You've got the suffering out. That's definitely not going to go away. That's just part of your persona.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. It's like, I think, because like when I was a little kid, I used to read Judy Blume books, and I remember seeing an interview with her, and she just said, I don't write because I want to, I write because I have to. And it kind of resonated with me that when you do have that urge, you know, that you can't rest and relax. And, you know, you always feel like there's a story going on in the back of your head that needs to come out. And so, yeah, it's, you can't say no to it, really, can you?
No, it's all part of it. And that's something when you discover, you just embrace it. And so you said you've always wanted to be a writer. When did you first discover that was it? That was your thing?
Honestly, for as long as I can remember, like my mum was always very into reading with us, and so we'd sort of sit there as little kids, you know, with a book on our laps. And so that was a really strong experience when I was growing up, that books were really very important. And then I just loved, I was always fascinated by how the individual writers had put this thing across, and how they'd conveyed the character, and the way the dialogue was written. I just always found it really interesting. And I mentioned I was chatting to someone the other day, and I can remember when we had an assignment in primary school to write out a story, and I'd been watching the Blues Brothers, and I took like the whole car chase
Blues
scene.
Brothers.
Yeah, and I took the car
Come
chase
watch
scene.
the Blues Brothers. I love that. So going around in the cop car.
Yeah, but I like wrote it out. I was so fascinated with just translating this scene that I loved onto a page, and I was like a little kid, like really small. Just I don't know what the teacher must have thought about me when I just handed this in. This don't look like no expressway to me, you know. But yeah, it was just something I was always fascinated with, and yeah, I've just always enjoyed doing it since. But thankfully, I've got the kind of brain where it's like a film in my head, and the characters kind of show me what they're doing, and I just follow them around and write it down.
Yeah, how hard is it to create? That's one thing I struggle with, are characters. I'm more of an ideas and concepts person,
Oh, okay.
and that's where my brain kind of goes. Sometimes I think characters get in the way. I know I said I love to. That's why I love to get invested in characters, because it's such an alien concept to me about the person. Sometimes I'm like, I don't want to know about yous. I want to know about the monster.
Yeah, yeah.
And I want to know about the otherworldly realm that the monster comes from. Right, you Muppets are getting them away. Would you hurry up and get killed already so I can get to where I want to go? But that doesn't seem to be the way. Yeah, no one else seems to think that way, which is very, very strange.
I don't know. I enjoy you know, creating characters. I tend to if an idea sort of comes into my head, I'll like stew on it for a while before I actually write it. And it's like these little scenes will come into my mind, and like I'll get an idea of how they talk and how they dress and how they kind of come across. And it kind of like ruminates for a little while until they are this kind of full person in my head, and the scenes are kind of like playing out how they would interact with each other. And so I can just kind of like quickly get it down, but only once it's kind of like completely a full form picture. I don't know, it's a bit strange, but I always say that I always come up with ideas when I'm trying to relax. So like I'll just jump in the bath and I'll be all set in my bubbles with my glass of wine. And then it's like, oh, I've thought of the best scene. I need to get out. And so it's like, you just don't get a second to yourself, I think, when you've got like a writer brain, because they're just constantly chipping away at you, especially when you try to relax.
I think that's creative in general. But how do you then strike that balance? Because I know even just doing this podcast alone, it's all consuming. You almost feel guilty if you're not either working on it, creating content, if you're not planning content. Like, you feel like you're wasting your time once you're in the zone, if that makes sense. But you need to set time aside to like do the mundane stuff. You need to obviously no one don't want to talk about your family situation, I think, and none of my business sort of thing. But you still need to make time for family and friends.
Yeah,
And
sure.
other things. But how do you strike that balance? How do you stop it like taking over?
I mean, it is hard, because I think you'll be the same, that when you're in a group of people, or you're trying to sort of, you sat in a bar or a cafe or something, and you just can see people who'd make perfect characters and things like that. So I think you've always got half your brain is like on your book at the moment, isn't it? So it's really hard to give anybody your 100% engagement when you're in the middle of it and you're writing stuff. I mean, that's another thing. Since it was published, it was that kind of, oh, I can take a break now. And so like when it's been really sunny, I've just been sat in the garden reading and not feeling guilty, because I think that's a huge thing about it. When you're in the middle of a writing project, every time you've got a spare minute, you feel like if you're not working on it, then it's a waste, and you're never going to get there. And so you exhaust yourself. I mean,
that's how burnout happens, isn't it?
Exactly. And I've been there with it, because you just can't, you don't feel like you can give yourself a break. But yeah, it's taking these a few weeks now to just kind of look at the promo. Like I've been writing a little bit, but I haven't sort of thrown myself in again the way I did with that, because it has just been nice to take a bit of a breather, like you say, and just catch up on life a little bit.
Yeah, and also you don't have to just always be like coming on here. We've talked about your book, but it's not just about that. That'll be a very short interview, about 5 minutes long. Yeah, book, bad, great, okay, bye. We make much for a conversation.
No.
Which once again, it's back to that finding other avenues and being able to like pull back and switch off. That's also how people get to know you, and then they get interested in your work.
Hopefully.
But there's some folks that just can't do that.
Yeah.
And we all know those type of people. We've seen them. They post 100 times a day.
Yeah.
They'll DM you. They just become an absolute nuisance. And I think anyone that's remotely conscientious doesn't want to be that person.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you think that lends into part of the fear of actually doing it as well? That you don't want to be that person?
Oh, so yeah, like, definitely. I mean, you've got to show as much of an interest in other people's books and other people who are reading the books as you do in your own, because then you can get that balance. But when it is all just about your projects and you're sharing links, your Amazon link with everything that you say, it's just irritating. People don't want to. It's like if you were in a workplace and you just kept walking up to them and showing them something that you were working on. It's like that's not how it works.
I have worked with people like that. Me.
Yeah. And it's just an instant turn off, isn't it? Like it stops people. Even if people had been like, oh, this book sounds interesting, I'll check it out. If they are doing that and throwing it in your face all the time, you just think, oh, maybe.
God, there's just this person who shall be unnamed, but they're a director. And somehow they decide they're going to be my best buddy. This was not so long ago. And they were spending all their time, like, this whole notion of these superhero CEOs that are up at 4:00 in the morning, run a marathon, write a novel, like create 50 seminars, then they go to work.
Yeah.
And work to midnight and sleep for 20 minutes, and then they do it all over again, and they're just superhuman.
And then go to the gym.
Of course, they're on the treadmill while they're on the Zoom meetings, because that's what they're doing, and this person was doing that to me. Oh, yeah, and I don't take lunch because I'm doing this, and they're drinking water constantly because they're hungry, because they're trying to put on this fake persona. I don't care. And they lasted about a week and a half of me, and then they broke, and then they're flipping eating all day and stuff. And that, and I'm just like, why are you wasting time being like that? That's just pointless. In fact, I think less of you now. In fact, I think you're quite a bit of a joke
Yeah.
by getting on like that.
It's like there's something missing, isn't it? It's like they're not 100% happy in what they're doing, and that's why they're just constantly trying to justify it, maybe. And so there is that. It doesn't seem quite so authentic, does it, when people
No, and
are like
we'll
that?
see that, and we'll see the difference, I think, between a true creator and someone who's just jumping on a bandwagon.
Mm.
And writing groups, seeing you mention it, we get so many. You know, the ones that have an idea, they haven't. They've no intention of publishing. Let's be honest, they're never going to write anything. But they're in every writers group you can imagine, and they're giving their opinions and doing this. But they've got an idea, and it's going to be better in all years. And
Yeah.
if you'd spend less time on that and just get on with it,
Yeah, you'd have done it by now.
I've done 100 times over. It just, what is it about compulsions with people like that? I just can't get my head around it.
No, it's strange. I guess it goes back to that thing of if there is something missing, I suppose, like maybe they're too scared to do it, but just talking about it makes them feel like it's happening, kind of thing. I don't know, but yeah, it's sad. You just kind of you want them to just get off the computer and get typing and get it done.
I was actually talking to a mate. It was when we do our segment at the end of the month, like a horror catch up and review a movie. I'd accidentally switched my Wi-Fi off and didn't notice because it was a nice day. No, but I didn't notice because it was a nice day, and until I actually went to go online, I wasn't. My phone's thrown somewhere, you know, sitting on a table, and I just faffing about doing the things.
Mm-hmm.
And it was only when I switched on my computer, I went, oh, no internet. But those sort of people, I think they could never do that.
Yeah, I'd notice straight away. I think I'd notice straight away. Just
it's,
because you've got to be on
maybe
it
I'm just an
all the
older
time.
generation that grew up before the internet, understands how great it was when it came in and the usefulness.
A bit of freedom.
But I'm thankfully lucky that I can still switch off.
Yeah.
Because I pity anyone that, you know, like would get like almost like a drug addict getting DTs or something, you know, that lose their connection.
Yeah, it is. It's like, you know, when people say it's like if you lose your phone, it's like the panic and the dread of it.
Thing is, I've had a mobile phone from the 90s. I had one of the old Motorola's. I was a flipping brick, and I had its little case, and I kept it on my belt. Problem is, that phone got left everywhere. Every time I was in the bar, that phone ended up in the because it was too heavy to hang on my belt. So eventually, I ended up on the table, and then obviously, you know, 1 or 2 pints later, maybe more, but you know,
yeah,
I'm staggered out, and then, well, where's my phone? And then I have to maybe, yeah, Colin, and especially my local, I was like, yes, Colin, you left it again. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm an idiot.
Oh, it would be gone if you did that nowadays.
Oh,
it wouldn't
God,
be hanging behind the bar.
No, and people would actually fall if people did that with their phone now. I've seen it. To actually go into fits.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the hell? I don't get it. It's weird. But I went off. So you're writing. Do you have one particular style or genre? Like I know obviously this latest one's paranormal, but that's not all you do. Do you look at other like horror tropes or horror subgenres? Especially with submissions, do you stick to the ones that's within your lane, or are you always trying to branch out?
Yeah, I think like that's another reason why I like the submissions actually when they've got a bit of a theme, because then maybe you'd sort of do something that you wouldn't have thought about. So yeah, I'm always up for. I think I always kind of sound very similar and sound the same in my writing, and there's always like say a bit of you know.
So have you a strong writing voice?
I think so. I hope so. I mean, I think you can tell it's me. But yeah, just I like to sort of be challenged, I guess. If there is a, I mean, there are certain things that I'll steer away from. I've never been that good at writing like cosmic horror or things like that. So that's not the kind of thing that would, you know, I wouldn't necessarily jump on that. But yeah, I'm always up for being stretched. Maybe one day I'll do some cosmic, but
that's great because we've got Brotherhood of the Dice on here. That's he lets me onto his channel on the Wednesdays for a Call of Cthulhu group. He lets me cause
Oh.
chaos in his channel and still, for some reason, even after the first couple of times, still invites me back. I'm like, oh, okay, mate, you're doing it.
Oh. Oh, it's
That's all about
amazing.
cosmic horror. I don't know. I love that. Maybe I'm not a big fan of paranormal, but cosmic horror, the idea of that other realm seeping in,
Yeah.
and just hungry, waiting to just eat everything, and you're just that nothing and meaningless, and you're just a snack to some eldritch being that's been around millions of years before you and be millions of years after, and nothing you do will make a difference.
Yeah. It's
That's
terrifying.
absolutely, that's. But it's not the easiest genre. It's definitely not the easiest to put on screen.
Definitely. Like I just can't do it. I love it. I enjoy it, but I just can't write it. I'm just terrible at it. So yeah, props to anyone who can. It's not easy.
I grew up with fantasy writing, but the thought of putting, the year, like I've sort of working on something at the moment, but it just becomes more monumental because I'm not having to do historical research. And every time I get to a certain point, I'm like, having to do more research and spend more research and actually writing down. And it's just becoming frustrating.
Yeah, just getting bogged down in it.
Yeah, and it's just overwhelmed. Like, am I ever going to get through this?
Yeah.
And I keep mentioning every so often, but it's never. I just feel like it's never going to come to be because the more you realize the detail you have to get it right, the more you're sort of putting yourself under pressure. So that's my sort of bug fantasy or like fantastical realms where you have to actually get into the mechanics.
Oh, that's it, because it's so
overwhelming.
The more you go into it and the more in depth you get with it, the more you can trip yourself up or forget a lead that led somewhere else, and then so something later on doesn't make sense, so you have to backtrack over the whole thing. And yeah, it's really difficult to do well because there is so much to it.
Yeah, good, but everyone has their own challenges, I suppose.
Yeah,
I can never find myself. Well, actually, I did write a romantic comedy, or sorry, a romantic story, but it was horror. But I couldn't see myself doing a traditional Mills and Boone type thing because
yeah.
God, that's completely turns you off. So I suppose fine, I'll not keep you too long. I know I promised I wouldn't keep you all night.
No, it's all right.
Good
I
off and
feel like
challenge.
I think the sun's gone down. I feel like I'm sat here in pitch black. Can
Yeah,
you still see
it
me?
was sunny.
Shall I put a lamp on? Am I just
sure,
like
if you
this
want, yeah.
black blob? Where am I? There we go.
Yeah, it's happened to me once or twice. I've started off and it's like mid-afternoon and it just starts getting dark, and then next thing you're like, oh, right, okay.
Yeah, I just thought, am I just like this black square now that nobody can see? But no, that's a bit better.
Bright light.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like that's what I love going on tangents and stuff. But what's next in the pipeline then? Obviously, you're taking a bit of a break, you're focusing on this, but eventually I'm sure you'll start getting the itch again, like time to create. Have you anything sort of you've got in mind, or is it just wait and see? Oh, you do? Right.
I do. I've got a couple.
Can you tell us without spoilers?
Yeah, I can. So I'm definitely hoping to do The Suffering too. So going into the ghosts and the history and everything a bit more, because a lot of people have said to me as well, like, it would have been lovely to get a bit more about the ghost history, and that was my intention, but there's only so much word count, and so I ended up having to take so much out, but I have got such big histories for the ghosts that I can't wait to kind of delve into in future. So hopefully there'll be a second Suffering coming up at some point. But then I've also been working on like a little sort of creepy urban legendy kind of story about an experiment into, when you close your eyes and then you can see like shapes and colors and things under your eyelids. So it's like a student's university experiment into really focusing on the stuff that comes behind your eyelids, but it's actually, they end up pulling out, well, a demon, basically demons through it. So you'd love it, hopefully.
It doesn't like cosmic horror.
Well, yeah, I guess it kind of
that
is.
sounds very sort of color out of space type.
Well, now that you mention it, oh god, maybe I better rethink and not do it. I'll see. That's that out the window.
Yeah, that's like you just challenge yourself. You're like, I'll never do that. Gotta do it.
I know. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. Damn.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
one of the Clive Barker sort of saying I mentioned him earlier, but Weave World starts off with two Scousers nicking a rug, and it turns out it has its own universe and a carpet, and you're like, how the hell did you come up with that, you madman?
Yeah.
So you could have something like People Under the Stairs behind your eyelids, and just
Well, exactly.
maybe they can interconnect, and
Yeah, we shall see. We shall see
yeah,
how
it sounds
it
interesting.
goes. But
But it's
yeah.
amazing how a simple idea like that can just grow and become its own beast. And yeah,
Well, that's it. Because I was thinking, what's the creepiest thing for me? And I really struggled sleeping. And so it is those moments where you just kind of like half in, half out of sleep, where your mind's just wandering and, everything feels a lot scarier than it would do if it was daylight. And it's those moments of thinking, if someone had read about this, focusing on this light that you get behind your eyelids, you can't help but think about it when you go to bed afterwards. So I was just thinking, yeah, that's something that will hopefully get inside people's heads and really creep them out. So yeah, sleepless nights. That's if people have sleepless nights, I guess I'm doing my job right. So fingers
yeah, I
crossed.
can do that myself. Just a stupid brain just doesn't
Well,
switch off.
yeah,
And
exactly.
I'm really jealous of those people that can put their head in the pillow and they're just like out to go, and then
Yeah.
they're up in the morning all refreshed, and I'm still like,
Yeah.
I'm like a zombie in the mornings. That's why I
Oh.
have to have like a rigid setup. I know where my keys, my wallet, I know where my clothes are hanging up, I know where my lunch is, because I have to like go rhythmically. All you have to do in the morning to mess me up is move my shoes. That's it, and
Oh.
I'm totally destroyed because I don't sleep properly. And
No, I'm the same. Maybe it's a creative thing that you just constantly, you can't switch it off, can you?
yeah, I've yet to have somebody with the answer.
No, like,
Like I've yet to have somebody go, right, how do you? And it's all about a battle. Everyone says, yeah, I try this, I do that. I have to force myself to do X, Y, or Z, but it never works 100%.
no.
You're always fighting against yourself.
Hmm.
But would you be anything else though?
No, no, definitely not. It's worth it.
Could you picture yourself just being somebody who like soap operas every night or watches the news or just goes about and not actually put anything out there? Would it be any sort of life?
Oh, it's an interesting question,
It
isn't it?
would be an
Because
easier life, wouldn't it?
easier in a way, I guess, but like we were saying before, when you constantly got that, the only thing that you've ever been interested in doing is that. Would it be easier if you never did it? I don't know. It'd be less stressful, but
Mm-hmm.
then maybe the stress of, always having that voice that's not getting answered in your head of, you should be doing this. This is, your creative brain's kind of screaming at you all the time, like do this, and you're not getting to do it. I guess that might be even more stressful. I think that's it's something that we're just stuck with, isn't it?
Yeah, just each their own ways. Just I don't know. I can sometimes I'm sort of a bit envious of people that just don't do anything and just go about life. But I know
Yeah.
it's not. I just know that I wouldn't be happy.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
as much as I beat myself up and I get frustrated and I never feel like I'm good enough,
Yeah.
and I'm always trying to push the next level and punishing myself where I could just coast along. Like a person
Mhm.
that goes to the workplace and they just coast along and do the bare minimum.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
It's not possible when you're doing it
they don't
yourself,
have
is
any
it?
stress.
Mhm.
Yet you're the one that the boss is always at because you produce the goods, and you always seem to be the one who ends up at the knife edge because you produce the goods.
Yeah.
And you watch these people and just go along. Part of me wants to be like them, but also I couldn't.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be.
exactly.
It's part of the
Well,
eternal struggle, isn't
exactly. I think when you've got that kind of brain, there's just no switching it
it?
off. Like even when you're on holiday, you're never on holiday from your brain, are you? It's always there. So
Yeah, like that's something else. I can't just go on holiday.
no.
I can't. I can never. I tried it once. See the resort holiday,
Mhm.
the typical holiday to Tenerife or something. I can't do that.
No, I
And
hate
sitting
it.
I'm done. I have to go to an event. So if it's like a geeky event or something, it doesn't matter what random place it is. That's why I'm going on holiday because I'm going to
Yeah.
that. Or if I've got friends that we're meeting up and we're going to do something, that's my holiday.
Mhm.
Or whatever weird like I love weird hobbies. So I've done everything from, like I said, role playing, the LARPing, running around with rubber swords. I've martial arts, you name it. So that's my holiday, is I go away for a week or something and do that, immerse myself in it. But I just can't do that. Go away and do nothing.
Yeah, can't sit by a pool and just
Oh
switch
God,
off because it never switches
I've
off.
I tried that, and honestly, I start getting sweaty, and I'm going, this is uncomfortable, and I can't read because I'm not, I'm out in the sun.
Yeah.
Properly, so I'm not enjoying myself. And when eating and drinking's fine, but if I'm just sitting there eating and drinking and I'm not engaging or having conversations or that sort of stimuli, I just can't do it. It's like sports. When I was younger, I couldn't watch sports, but I like playing them.
Oh, okay.
So like, grew up massive rugby fan, so but playing, not watching. Like now, I just can't. Going to the stadium and just watching a game, I'm just like, nah, because I want to get stuck in. But obviously, my body tells me different now. It's like, no, fat boy, get back in your seat. Don't do it.
Oh, so you didn't follow a team on TV
or anything? Obviously, my home team, Ulster. I followed them, but
didn't enjoy it when you were watching it.
I was all right. And obviously, I went out with a couple of friends and we were like more like having a laugh than actually just sitting watching the game. But I just want to get on and play. That's just. I think that's part of the creative process, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to consume. You don't want to just sit and be an audience member.
Yeah, you want to be working on your own thing.
You want to get stuck in there, like I watch a lot of movies, but I watch movies now to review them.
Yeah.
So I've watched more movies now in the last 3 years, even though I used to go to the cinema every week. But I'll find myself watching a movie because I'm going to do something with it. I'm not just going to watch for the sake of it and then switch off.
Mm-hmm. I always find as well that when you're a creative, you're always thinking when you're watching a movie or whatever, like, oh, well, if this was me who was doing it, this is what would happen. So there's never really any surprises because you plot it out as if you're the one who's writing it. So there's only a couple of ways it could go. And so you never switch off that voice that's just like, well, if I was writing this, I would do this, 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 and this, because that's the only way it could be. And so,
yeah, it doesn't mean it's better or worse. It's just that's the way you're geared.
Exactly, yeah.
Somebody who really bugs the life out of me is George R.R. Martin.
Oh, really?
He is such an arrogant, so full of himself. And it's when he talked about, I'm such a super intellect, I'm better than everybody else. And when he started slagging off The Sixth Sense, which at the time, brilliant movie, and it was a good twist. Yeah, there were hints, but he's like, I figured it out within 5 minutes, and we wrote it down. Both my wife and I, we knew exactly what was going to happen. He was like, mate, you're a nurse.
Yeah.
And then look at the state. Here, George, have you done Winds of Winter yet? Hey, come on, mate. How's it going? Get off your trampoline, you wasteless face. But have you ever encountered writers like that, or creatives that are just so arrogant and up their own backside?
Yeah.
That they're insufferable?
It takes... I can't imagine being that confident, really. I think it's...
But is it confidence or is it overcompensation?
Arrogance. Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's like similar thing as those keyboard warriors, isn't it? Where it's like, what is the goal here? Why are you being so, unpleasant? What are you gaining out of it, kind of thing?
Are you terrified of other people's success? Do you think if somebody else succeeds that it's going to tear you down and destroy your world?
No. I mean, I've never really been that competitive. Like, my best friend's super competitive, and I'm just not. And it's like my brain's just not really wired that way. I just don't. It's like if you do well, then ace, good for you. And it doesn't really have any bearing on me, apart from like, I'm happy to see it and I'll be proud of you or whatever. But it doesn't. No, I don't have that kind of like competitive. Oh, I wish you'd fail kind of thing because I want to be at the top. It's just, it doesn't really compute with me at all.
I think that's why I'm terrible at self-promotion as well, because I don't have that need to beat other people.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're only against yourself at the end of the day. And
yeah, it's am I better than was last year?
Exactly. Yeah, that's all that matters.
Is this idea I have going to come in, even if nobody watches it? Is it going to come into fruition? Say I have an idea for a segment or something. It's more about that idea and putting it together.
Yeah.
And seeing if it works.
And it's not about Yeah, like, and it's not about, oh, this person may have covered this topic, I've got to kind of beat everything that they did, and it's just about how can I do it my way, and how can I do it the way I want to, that's authentic to me and that will come across to my audience. It doesn't matter what they've done, and it's not about beating anybody else. It's just about making yourself happy in what you're doing, isn't it? That's the most important
That's it.
thing.
Yeah, and I just wonder, because a lot of those people do fall hard.
Mm.
That they don't just fade away gracefully. They fall hard because of that strange compulsion. But
Yeah.
we've all got them, I suppose. It's just how we cope with it. But do you ever worry you become that sort of person? Is there any red flags that you're like, oh dear, need to step back? Have you found yourself maybe just with the need to self-promote and, feeling the obligation to do it? Have you taken yourself to that brink where you're like, oh dear, right, okay, better step back?
No, I mean, like I say, I mean, my personality type isn't. It's not. That's not really there. That I have like had moments like when it was first out, I was getting super stressed about like rankings and where it
Mm-hmm.
was, and so then you'd have that moment of like, oh, why are they there? And why are they doing so much better than me? But it wasn't like they shouldn't be. It was like, oh, why just why why
Yeah,
can't
what
I
have
be
I done?
there?
Or
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. So it wasn't like, oh my god, I wish to tear them down and be up there instead. It was like, what are they doing that I'm not, kind of thing. And because yeah, it was a bit wild that first couple of months before it sort of took off and got its own little trajectory going, which is so lovely.
So is this the
Yeah.
first of you doing this? Because I know you've obviously submitted, but have you sort of left it to, like, when you submit to an anthology, have you kind of went, oh, well, I've done it, they're going to take care of all that, and really it's not been a factor?
Yeah, I mean, with the anthologies, I mean, it goes out there and you do share it a bit, don't you? And sort of tweet about it. But I think with it being something that's so permanent and it is your thing, like your baby now, isn't it? Having a book out there, and so it is on your shoulders to get it up there and keep it up there. And so yeah, you do have to kind of keep your eye on the prize, I guess, and just keep on pushing it and keep on hoping that it reaches the right people, kind of get it in front of them, but not too much, as we were talking about before.
Right balance at the end of the day.
Exactly, like not shove it down people's throats, and but still kind of hopefully people will discover it and enjoy it. So yeah, it's been really nice few months just seeing it, like people's reaction to it when it's positive. It's like nothing else. It's amazing.
Well, you're not going to shove it down people's throats, but I am, right? All using the chat, I'm watching, and the various streams, get it, okay? Links in the description. Go on to Michelle's website. Check out other stuff as well. And, if you do bad and read it, leave a review. Share it to some others. That's a big thing as well. That all helps the algorithm. The algorithm's a flipping beast in itself. I'm surprised nobody's written a horror story yet about the algorithms of social media, because they are the most evil creations in the world. It's like Terminator, like Skynet type stuff that hates humanity and hates creators, because it's like a demonic force that punishes you if you don't complete the right ritual. So help cast the spell. Leave a star review. It doesn't have to always be 5 stars. Be realistic. It doesn't have to be like paragraphs, like a full author review. Just, I really liked it. I like this aspect of it. It's that simple. But most importantly, show support. If you're not financially able at the moment, at least share the links and get the word out there. That's how we get people like Michelle known to folks. Share this episode too, if you don't mind. Let people get to know Michelle and help us out as well. Always appreciated. But thank you very much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Oh, thank you. I've had a blast. And it's been great.
I definitely wish you the best with this novel. I hope it just really takes off and gives you confidence to carry on, because it's no easy thing.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate it.
No worries. And everyone else, thanks for tuning in. Great to see everyone in the chat as well, contributing. Thanks for your questions. And as always, keep up to date with the channel, do the typey clicky things, and until next time, keep it creepy, keep it horrific.